What's up, guys? It's your girl Stacey Cake, your host for What's High, and today I'm here to talk about the Hunger Games franchise. I'm going to be ranking the films because on November 20th, 2026, my birthday month, just 2 days before my birthday actually, the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping is hitting theaters, and I am so excited to see the younger version of some of these characters. I actually listened to the audiobook recently, and I'm obsessed to see some of these moments visualized on the big screen. But before we get there, I got some maybe controversial opinions about the order, the ranking of these films, which was best, which was worst. And because you guys loved my video about the characters you may have missed in the trailer for the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. So without further ado, if you like this type of content, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment, and let's get into it. So hopping into the ranking, let's get into a little bit of context. So real quick, for anyone who needs a setup, the Hunger Games franchise started in 2012 with Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss Everdeen. 4 films across the entire original trilogy, then the 2023 prequel Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So it's been 5 movies total so far, and Sunrise on the Reaping, when it comes out in November, will be the 6th. So this is set 24 years before the first film with Katniss Everdeen, and this follows a young Hamish Abernathy in the 50th Hunger Games, the second quarter quell. So this is the perfect time to revisit this franchise. I can't wait to dive in, and I'm going to be ranking these films from worst to best, starting with the worst. So let's get started at number 5. Coming in as the worst one in the franchise so far is Mockingjay Part 1 for me. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate this movie. I thought it was essential to the plot of the movie, but it was the slowest one. And it was the one I had the hardest time kind of staying engaged with. But, you know, when you're ranking a franchise, you have to put things somewhere. So this is where this one fell for me. But the core issue with this one for me, and I am big on movies that evoke emotion, and there was definitely some emotion evoked here, such as like when the hospital got blown up, and Katniss trying to find her voice in this revolution. So yes, it evoked some emotion for me, but I just feel like nothing really happens in this film. It's almost entirely all build up and set up for what happens in a Mockingjay Part 2. Like, Katniss is shooting propaganda videos, she's adjusting to District 13, she's processing the trauma of what she's went through in the actual Hunger Games, and she's, you know, re-engaging, which I was happy about because he's fine. She's re-engaging with Gale, all those things. So yes, essential things, tying up some loose ends in this film. That's what it was for me. But I feel like it lacked momentum. It lacked memorability as far as defining moments for Katniss that really kind of stood out and stay with you. And it, not to say it didn't have any, but compared to the other films, this one I think was lacking the most. The rescue of Peeta, obviously at the end, is genuinely like intense, and it's a memorable moment, and it was essential because obviously Katniss is all about Peeta from 1 through Part 100. It's Peeta. Okay, she love her some Peeta down. Everybody else can scram. She was gonna ride and die for Peeta. Okay, she was that man's knight in shining armor, but that's another video for another day. So, and then obviously we have her singing The Hanging Tree, which was very pivotal, and really I'm gonna get into the ballads of songbirds and snakes. That full circle moment was just chef's kiss to me. So I did love that moment in this film, but those were like some of the best moments in this installment. But they feel kind of isolated, you know, like, but when I'm looking at the movie overall, it just really felt slow to me. And when you compare this to the novels, if you look at it, the Mockingjay book is one book. it's not split into the Mockingjay Part 1, the Mockingjay Part 2. You buy one book. So I feel like it should have been one movie. But, you know, I get that it's a money-making thing, number one. And number two, they also packed a lot into this. So it did set us up for a lot and bring us through, you know, slowly what kind of Katniss had to her transition to becoming this revolutionary representation, this symbol officially, and exploring District 13 as fans. So it's appreciated, but it was a slacker in the film. It's not bad. It just wasn't as good as the other ones, frankly. But let me know what you think. Do you think Mockingjay Part 1 was the worst in the franchise? Let me know in the comments, but keep it cute because I know y'all like to tussle about these movies y'all be loving. But okay, I'm ready for the next one. Let's get to it. Coming in at number 4 is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So it took me a long time to really watch this film. I did want to see it, but I kind of got away from it. And so when they released the trailer for Sunrise on the Reaping, I said, oh, I got to see The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And especially after I listened to the audio book for Sunrise on the Reaping, I was invested and I was like, I gotta see it. So this is coming in at number 4, and I really did appreciate this film. It's just that I feel like compared to the other ones too, it also had some stretches of kind of like slow moments. Not as slow as the Mockingjay Part 1, but slow compared again to some of the other films that we watched, and less shocking moments, I would say. But again, very critical to the franchise, and it was definitely, this film held a special place in my heart because of the full circle moments and the connections we were able to see with the songs, with the coveys, and the connection with the hanging tree, who got hung there, that story, kind of getting that context there, because that was something, again, that was sung in the Mockingjay film Part 1, and just to kind of make those connections and see the Jabberjays and how President Snow kind of evolved and what his connection was to the districts, and knowing that he had that special connection to District 12 just was so satisfying to kind of see it all come together. So again, I'm not dragging this movie at all, but I really went back and forth about where to put it because it held a special place in my heart, because again, I'm just a fan of full circle moments, and when they do that and just tie me back to something where I feel like, ooh, like a detective, like I'm connecting the dots, I'm putting together the strings. You know how the detectives have the strings drawn from one point to the next? Like, that's what I like to do with franchises, and this movie was that for me. So again, I wanted to definitely, like, if I could kind of tie it somewhere else, I maybe would move it up a slot. But for the sake of this video, it's going in at slot number 4 because, again, this is like still has some of its like slow, like build up moments, which I think again were essential. But when you look at things overall, that's just where we are. It was a strong movie. It was important for the mythology. I think Sunrise on the Reaping is definitely going to change how we see this film, though, because Haymitch connects directly to President Snow's legacy, and so that context might make the Songbirds feel bigger in like kind of hindsight after we see that. So where do you rank the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes? Because I feel like opinions are all over the place on this one, and I honestly think it didn't get much talk about. Like, a lot of people didn't talk about it as much as I thought they would, because I remember I think I did a trailer reaction for this film. I think it was something on my channel for this film, or I mentioned it in one of my videos. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in knowing people's opinion on this film. I loved seeing President Snow like tied to Lucy Gray. That was very interesting to me, and seeing how he almost fell in love, but he just had a selfishness in him that was insane. I don't know if I'm also ranking this film lower because I expected to have more empathy for President Snow. Like, I feel like that's usually when I love a good villain. Like, when I love a good villain type movie, like the origin of the villain story origins, is like when they make me have empathy for the villain. But I had very little empathy for President Snow when watching this. So maybe that's kind of why I positioned it at number 4 also, because I was like, it just made me hate him. Like he did that to his friend. And then like Lucy Gray kind of like made the connection like, oh, something really off with this man. Like, he a little like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He a little homicidal. He a little more dangerous than what he's letting on. And he was lying about the number of people that he killed. He was just like, we got to see him becoming ruthless, but he was never that likable from the jump. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Coming in at number 3, drum roll please. Okay, let's save the drum roll for the number 1 slot. Coming in at number 3 is the Mockingjay Part 2. So I'm gonna put that there because this is where like I feel like it was getting a little bit harder to rank things. Part 2 is everything that part 1 kind of set us up for. And the siege of the Capitol and them paralleling that to the actual Hunger Games in the arena was like it hooked me, it grabbed me by my brain, and it wouldn't let me go. And I thought that was such an insane kind of concept, and like visually interesting thing to see, down to the army tools and resources that they use to kind of like figure out where the traps were within the Capitol. I just love that whole setup and the interactions between the characters, them taking the front lines, being able to see them actually in the midst of war was like, not just in the war, but like on the front lines of war, was just unforgettable and visually just so intense. And so this is what I really loved about this film. Like, just we got to see the fight. We got to see the fight. We got to see what the Capitol had, what the Capitol had, and their ability to like, first of all, install all of these things so quickly was just insane. And it really put in perspective the comparison of resources that they had compared to these districts who couldn't even feed themselves. Insane. And just, of course, we have to talk about the biggest plot twist that I could ever fathom was when Katniss killed President Coin instead of President Snow. And her kind of like, him getting her hip to that, number 1, was like crazy. But of course, he wasn't going to miss that opportunity to say, oh, you thought it was me? This trick ain't that nice. You think I'm bad? She ain't all that. She like this. She just want a boss's spot. That's all President Stowe was like. Oh, you think President Coin is T? Nah, she just want my spot. That's really what this is. So you can get rid of me, but you walking into something you ain't even hip to. It's gonna be like round me part 2. The this is my this is the female version of me, is essentially what President Snow got her hip to. And the fact that she's the one who killed Katniss's sister, insane. Like, she did not care about anything but getting her position. And kind of the revelation that President Coin didn't even like Katniss to begin with. Like, I just love the whole storyline of this and how they visualize it. It was just action-packed. And I feel like that some of that action is what part 1 was missing. And this is why this landed at part 2. It was just such a memorable film. And it was a banging ending to the franchise. But let's talk about, like, why is it not higher on my list? One, because Peter's arc in this film, while it was interesting, it was kind of like, it was kind of annoying to a point that Katniss just always cared about Peter, like, over everyone else. Like, it was just this, and I get it was trauma bonding, a lot of it, that is something, but her whole life was trauma. So I guess this was a worser trauma. Yeah, that's fair. But it was just like, I kind of was annoyed about that at this point. And it was like, the way it was kind of resolved, I like that they were still like working through their PTSD together, but the way it was kind of resolved, like, to me, Peter was never really a man. I don't know, like, I feel like his manhood was never like fully established. It was always like he was everything to Katniss. You know, like he was everything to Katniss. And yes, he had did small, nice gestures for her. I'm not taking that. And he had saved her life maybe once or so throughout the franchise, once or twice throughout the franchise. But it was nothing compared to what she did for him. And I just feel like I wanted Peeta to like come out stronger in this. Come out like, yeah, like I feel like that's what Gail was giving. And it was like she had very minimal love for my boy. And I love that he called her out. I can't remember which film it was, but I love that Gail called her out and was like, oh, like you only care about me when I'm about to die or when I'm hurting. Like that's when you get my affection. But it also makes sense about why she had such a strong connection to Peeta, because she wanted a project. You know, she was used to being that for Prim, and we get that from Candace immediately. She's a caretaker. She wants to be that for someone. And Dale was a man, you know. He was like, I got you, but she wanted to be that I got you for somebody. And I feel like Peeta put her in that position all the time. Not to say Peeta was like weak, but he let Katniss, like with him, Katniss can be the lifesaver, you know. Katniss can be the caretaker of him in a way, in certain aspects. So I was just kind of annoyed about it, and I think that's why I kind of maybe didn't rank higher. But overall, like great, like just storyline outside of him, because he was annoying. Outside of that relationship, because that relationship was annoying. Not Peeta, but that relationship. Peeta was kind of annoying too. So yeah, I said what I said. But do you think Mockingjay Part 2 deserved to be higher on this list? And is the ending the best ending in the franchise? Or was it like still the other ones that are left kind of like outdid it? Let me know what you think. So that brings me to the final two films. Now, I will say the order of these last two, I'm not particularly rigid on. They flip-flop a lot in my mind, and that's between Catching Fire and The Hunger Games, the original, the opening film. So this is how I'm going to rank them for this movie, but please have grace. So coming in number 2 is The Hunger Games, the original. I'm going to place that at number 2. And let me start off by saying this was the header. This was the opener. This is what gave us the visual that we needed from the books. And I will say it did a phenomenal job of hooking fans in, new fans, book fans. It brought us all together. It unified us, and the casting was just T, like down to a science. Loved every role, every person that they picked for each role. It did what it needed to do, and it established the scene and the circumstances of District 12 so well that I have to say that this is just probably a temporary placement for me, and I will get into why I placed it at number 2, but like it honestly could easily be number 1 in this ranking list. So let's get into The Hunger Games, the part 1. So this film again set the scene phenomenally. Where I think it kind of like fell short a little bit, it was a lot compared to Catching Fire. It was just a lot more shaky, and a lot of people criticized it for this, but it is something to take note of. The visualization, the camera was just a lot more shaky in this. However, it was phenomenally well done. I don't have a lot to add. I just have to rank this how I best see fit, and I just feel like it's something I can brag on more with Catching Fire compared to the original. But again, it does a great job of introducing the circumstances, the relationship between characters, bringing us into the heat of the moment with Katniss as we go on this crazy journey with her. We're kind of just placed and thrown into her world, and we get to see her experience with entering the Hunger Games in place of her sister Prim, and it really establishes her connection to her sister, the motivation that kind of carries her through this film, obviously probably underneath Peeta, but that annoys me. But again, you know, you guys get the point. So I think it's particularly only number 2 because Catching Fire just stands out for several reasons. So coming in at number 1 is Catching Fire. So this is the sequel to The Hunger Games that came out in 2012. This one came out directly after in 2013. And Catching Fire is a sequel that it's pivotal when you talk about franchises because it carried so well. It showed us the ramifications of the Hunger Games one. It continued relationships, and it fixed the shaky camera issue that we had in the part one. And I was really genuinely impressed by the creativity that was used in this film for the challenges that the participants faced in the Hunger Games in this film. It really didn't rely on the arena to carry the whole thing, and it really started to incorporate more of that political layer, which is going to bring us to the next two films in this franchise. And so, kind of like watching Katniss make this victory tour, see the sinister aspects of President Snow, more clearly, and how he views her, and her impact on the districts, especially like considering what she did in the Hunger Games one. This film really made what happened in part two more profound. And so that's why I'm going to kind of boost this up to number one and kind of do a bit of a plot twist here for you guys and rank Catching Fire in the number one spot for my video today. Again, I flip-flop between the two because I love them both probably equally, but this one really, the creativity is what really is going to rise this up to the top for me. And the layers here is the whole concept of the franchise is layered anyway, but I think we really start peeling back those layers in Catching Fire, as again we get to see the capital more. We get to see as the different districts, we get a better look at those as Katniss makes her round, and we see how cold-blooded the killings are, like just shooting people for their connection in their representation to stand up for themselves out of fear and revolt to kind of oppress the districts. And I feel like it's such a parallel and relatable to things that we could easily see go on today, silencing the poor, silencing the people, and the fear of revolution and what that could cause is just so real. And I think we really look at this, and this film is just such ahead of its time in the look of this. Maybe not even ahead of its time, but just so aware of the times and just giving us crazy insight into how all of these things, all of these classes are connected. And it's just an interesting look at the relation between classes and classism, and the intersection of kind of like justice and tradition in a society. So this was just again, it was very well done. It was very interesting to see what the relationships in Katniss's life, what life looked like for her after she won the Hunger Games one. And I just think it's a film that sticks with you. And again, the arena really stood out to me, and them the TikTok, just figuring that out. So this film is what's making me so excited for the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. So that's why it's going to be at number one, because I feel like this film right here is pivotal on what's going to carry us into the Sunrise on the Reaping that comes out in November. So that's what I'm ranking as number one. Let me know, do you agree with putting Catching Fire at the top, or you are a person where the original is always best? I have no rigid opinion on this, but that's what I'm gonna stand on for today. I said what I said for today. Y'all can argue with your mamas, now argue with me, but tell me what you think in the comments. Yeah. So Mockingjay Part 1 is at the bottom, and Catching Fire is at the top, with everything else somewhere in between. So now here's the thing. Sunrise on the Reaping could genuinely shake this list up for me. We're going to be following Hamish through the 50th Hunger Games, and this is the second court quell. So may the odds ever be in his favor. I won't spoil that for you if you know nothing about Sunrise on the Reaping. But if you haven't read the book or anything yet, but we're also getting to see a younger Snow in this, and we're getting to see the connections from Lucy Gray's bloodline through Hamish's girlfriend in this film, Lenore Dove. So just again with the full circle moments. Oh, y'all know that's the key to my heart with movies, with cinema. I love it. So I'll obviously be back with a full reaction and breakdown when that film drops. But if you have not already, make sure you check out my teaser and trailer reactions for this film. I talk about some of the characters that make a reappearance in the Hunger Games Sunrise with the Reaping, and I can't wait to see it in November. So again, if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time.